Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Jeff Alt is our guest on the Outdoor Adventure Series today. Jeff is an author, an award-winning author, a speaker, an adventurer, and a family hiking and camping expert. As far as his author work is concerned, he's a very prolific author, and he's got some really neat books out there. His newest book is called Time Traveling Through Yellowstone National Park, The Adventures of Bubba Jones. It's his fifth book in the Adventures of Bubba Jones series. Jeff, it's a pleasure to have a fellow AHAH member, and for our listeners, that's the Outdoor Writers Association of America. Jeff is a member out on the East Coast. And Jeff, again, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today.
It's great to be on the show with you today, Howard. Thank you.
And I have to admit, it's like, how have I never met you before? Because you're a member, I'm a member, and I was just very happy and grateful for Ches, our executive director, to make the introductions for us. So really excited to learn more about you and your work. So without further ado, share a little bit with our audience. Who is Jeff Alt?
Well, I'm an adventurer, as you've mentioned. From when I was a little boy, my family took me on some unbelievable adventures to our national parks and planted seeds in me that evolved into going out and discovering on my own, fulfilling dreams. And it just amazed me how much you can gain from an outdoor adventure and then reapply that into other areas of your life. And so that really just stuck with me and formed how I look at the world and how I go about writing books and my interactions with people and my keynotes and everything. So it all started with family adventures as a young boy.
Fantastic. Now, I do have to ask, because you and I are maybe in a similar age range. Actually, I think I'm probably a little bit older. And I remember the family adventures. And did your family have the paneled station wagon with the camper in the back?
Yes, we did. We called it the Brady Bunch car. Coleman cooler, the canvas tent that leaked, in the wood paneled station wagon without, I don't know that there were seatbelts even.
Probably not back then.
But we had fun.
Yeah. And as you went out with the family, how many brothers and sisters did you have?
So I come from a family of 5.
Okay.
And so we had to modify a little bit how we went about some of our adventures, because one of my brothers was born with cerebral palsy, which
okay.
He was in a wheelchair. So when he was born, we had to change a little bit in how we did things. But yeah, so I'm the second oldest, and so our adventures involved a little bit of everything. We a lot of camping, fishing, hiking, going to the night ranger talks, the campfire chats that the national park rangers give, and so yeah, and all of that, it just is such a powerful memory. And it taught me that it's the experiences that we live and learn from more than buying things and owning something. It's what you did together that creates those memories that are so profound, and it's where you learn a lot of life lessons too.
As you were going out with the family and into the parks, who taught you how to fish or to navigate the trails? Maybe you learned how to use a compass, or looking at flowers and wildlife. Who helped educate you, in addition to, say, perhaps the rangers during the evening ranger talks?
Sure. So it was a mixture of folks, extended family. I do have a stepfather and a father. And my father's a big fisherman, so he taught us to fish. And to this day, he's still an avid fisherman. And then my stepfather, he had the bug to hike the Appalachian Trail. So he was the one that I would go hiking with the most. And we did sections of the Appalachian Trail in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, which really planted the seed for that big adventure I went on. I was also a Boy Scout at a young age. So I learned orienteering and map reading. And I also served a stint in the US Army where I refined those skills even more. So I had a mixed bag of know-how from multiple sources.
Okay. My next question to you, by the way, was going to ask, were you in the Boy Scouts? And I love that you were. And again, I'm thinking about my upbringing in the Midwest. I think I went to day camp. That was it. That was the extent of it. Maybe we went to Camp Tamarack for a weekend once a year. That was
Sure.
it. And so your stepfather took you on the Appalachian Trail, and I think that is just wonderful. And what was it adventures like that that began to kind of plant the seeds into writing the books? Because I mean, your books, and for our listeners, you're going to probably see this on the YouTube Get to Know You segment. As I had mentioned in the intro, Jeff has written a number of books in the series, The Adventures of Bubba Jones. And when did the seed begin to get planted for you about, I want to be a writer and I want to write about these adventures?
And initially, I didn't start all out to be an author. I started out as an adventurer.
Okay.
My first book I penned after walking the Appalachian Trail.
Okay.
And I thought, you're out there. I was in the woods for a half a year, 6 months almost, right? Well, 5 months total. And you have so much time to just think through things and just dwell on topics and solve problems. And you don't have a computer with you, and you don't so you're a lot of things that you're coming up with in your mind. You're like, what do I do with this? And so I kept a journal, handwritten journal. And after that adventure, I was asked to speak at various Rotaries and Kiwanis groups and outdoor clubs, and I didn't know which stories to tell. I had so many of them. So as I would share stories, I started to keep note of which ones people found the most entertaining, the most engaging. And that formulated my first manuscript about my Appalachian adventure, which was picked up by a publisher. And it's still my selling adult nonfiction book out there. But that started my writing career and my technique of how I write.
Okay. I'm curious. I did not, even though you and I are members of the Outdoor Writers Association of America, I am not a writer by trade. I'm a recovering IT business consultant. Then I became a career development coach, and that's where I make my living now. Podcasting, and I know you're a podcaster as well. It came about because I was helping my clients and using questions about their life to help get the story out of them. So I'm curious, as a writer, someone who journaled, collected stories, and now you're up on the stage, in the TED stage, Kiwanis, et cetera. In your mind, for our listeners' benefit, what makes a good story, especially in this genre? Because you're trying not only entertaining, but you're also educating with at least the Bubba Jones series.
I think if you can personalize a story, if you can reach off the page and pull someone in based on something they've perhaps experienced in their own life, so that they can connect with one of your characters or the event occurring in the story, where they can feel the bear, they can feel the vibration of the growl, or they can hear that eerie sound of a sound of the night that you don't know what it is, and they've experienced that too, and it pulls someone into the story. I think once you're engaged in a story, that you tend to follow it all the more. And if you can connect with your readership somehow, some way. So I think using all your senses. It's funny because I speak to school groups on writing, and it comes down to the basic principles that our kids are learning, and that's use all your senses. What do you smell? And how do you feel? What do you see? And just kind of recording it in your mind. And then as you develop as a writer, you just naturally do that subconsciously.
Okay. And I'm curious, as far as using all of your senses as you begin to gather your thoughts, organize them, put them on paper, as you were perhaps traversing the Appalachian Trail, and I know, like you said, it's a 5, 6 month adventure, 10 miles a day ish, maybe a little more, a little less. When did you take the moment to like stop, say, and look around, smell the roses, hear the sounds, the birds, the animals? Because that to me is, I would be a very slow hiker of the Appalachian Trail. I don't know if I could get it done in a year, let alone 6 months. All right. Because I want to stop and just take everything in. And what happened when you did that? What was that like?
And I'll just say that took about 30 days into my adventure before it kicked in because I was so focused and concerned about making it and not quitting because 9 out of 10 hikers quit. I witnessed it that I was so focused on not spraining my ankle and staying nourished and dry and not becoming hypothermic that so it took about 30 days to realize I'm going to do this. I can do this. And where all the blisters had become calluses, where so I had worked through a lot of the hard obstacles and now it was just becoming my daily routine. And then it just clicked mentally that, wow, I am out here. I am a nomad. And it was like euphoric. It was like you started to listen to yourself and to your surroundings. And it it was about when I crossed into Virginia from out of North Carolina, Tennessee area that it really kicked in. And from there, my whole adventure changed really because I would wake up at the beginning of each day and wonder what problem am I going to solve today, and let my mind just drift there. And whatever I experienced, I started to live in the moment. And we all say that, but it's such a pun. I literally did it. But when you get back into society, you try to bring that back with you. And that's the hard part. You have to focus more because now you're surrounded by synthetic, by man-made, false light. And so you have to reach back out to those outdoor experiences and pull them into your civilized world. So anyway.
Okay. And as you were having this adventure, living this experience, you wrote your first book. How did that overall episode, gestalt, so to speak, how did that inform subsequent books and what went into preparing to write them?
Well, I walk the Appalachian Trail. You're literally doing your own field research, and so you're recording the weather, the temperature, how you felt, all the senses I described. But it made me realize how important, if you're going to be an outdoor writer, it's the field research that is so profoundly important. So to this day, before I write any book, I take the adventure. I go, and selfishly, it's my favorite part because I love exploring. And so getting into each part is an essential component of every book I write. And connecting with the people that are there, the experts that are there, realizing that unless you are the expert, which in many cases, when I'm experiencing a new park, I'm not, you heed to the local experts. They're going to know the most about the wildlife and the fauna and all of that.
And how do you go about obtaining the insight and expertise from these local experts? Do you invite people to go out on a portion of the hike with you, spend a day with you? How does that process work for you?
Well, initially, it may just be attending one of the free lectures that the park provides, reaching out and scheduling meetings, sometimes in person. I prefer in person while I'm there, but if not, remote, like Zoom, phone call, email exchange, that sort of thing. And that is as much direct interaction as possible. A lot of these folks are super busy because they're catering to people attending their parks, and so you need to catch a lot of these folks in the off season when they have a little downtime just to answer your questions. So I've learned that you have to respect what they're doing too, because their mission is really similar to mine, where I'm writing these books to engage families about each park, but they're sharing their expertise to engage families too. They want you to enjoy your exploration in those parks. So being understanding of that is key.
Okay. And when you are crafting this book, can you share with our listeners how the book itself is organized? Because there's a lot for our listeners, a lot of value in each individual book. It's not just here's chapter one, chapter 15, whatever, but there's more going into this book. So tell us how these books are organized.
So we have three main characters. We have a brother sister duo who inherit the time travel magic from their Papa Lewis, who was named after Lewis from Lewis and Clark. And so it's a play on history, really, because I believe that all of our wildlands are remnants of what Lewis and Clark would have experienced when they headed west to explore way back in when they did the Lewis and Clark Corps of Discovery expedition. So we build up these characters we use the time travel magic to go back in time to learn and preserve the past, to learn about it so we respect it. So the books are crafted to instill that conservation mindset in our youth. What I want the reader to do is connect with the young characters and teach the family, teach their parents about, oh, we need to go do this and this and this. Because that's what Bubba Jones and Hucklebuck did, which are their trail names. Their real names are Tommy and Jenny. But when they're on an adventure, just like an Appalachian Trail through hiker, they take on a name other than their own.
See, I was going to ask you that. So thank you for sharing that. By the way, what was your trail name when you did the Appalachian Trail?
It was Wrongfoot.
Okay. You want to share
Because
about that?
the first day of my adventure, I inadvertently put the inserts of my boots in the wrong boots, and it took about 8 miles to discover my error. In the meantime, I went through an entire pack of moleskin, which is what you apply to blisters to prevent it. And I had to wrap my feet completely in duct tape.
Oh
I
boy.
had a handful of blisters on each foot, at least. One blister is painful. Imagine a half dozen on each foot on the biggest walk of your entire life on the first day. So instead of getting upset, I decided I had earned my trail name and tried to take the humor side of things and to remind me to laugh, and that I became Wrongfoot.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to give my characters, it's kind of the same lit adventure. You're out there, you're on an adventure, you take on this new persona. There is a secret code in the book, but you don't have to decipher them. I wanted to give something, a code system, for the advanced reader to maybe who wants that kind of thing. But I do give the answer, so you don't need to know the code. So each book is crafted the same way. They're all 16 chapters, but I include some elements in the back of the book, a timeline of where they all time travel to. I include a map and activities. And really, this is kind of like your insider's guide to what to do in that park. Whereas you still need to visit the visitor center, acquire the right maps, and take information from the park experts when you get there. But this gives you a good field guide road. This is a tried and true activity list of what we do when I visit each park before I write about it. And then I incorporate it into the storyline. So the characters are actually doing everything that's family friendly and fun.
Very good. And what I love about this book, an earlier guest that was on the podcast wrote a book about hikes in Southern California for family, and I love that this book, the series, is geared towards family adventure, very much like your upbringing, your family taking you and your brothers and sisters out for adventure. Because while getting out there on the trails and the parks can be solitary, I think they're best enjoyed with family. And I think that's what I love best about these books.
Very much so. And so I do include the nostalgic experience of grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, aunts and uncles, cousins are all intertwined in each book. And that's how I grew up. And we like we have family reunions in national parks and we kind of use that as our meetup place. And then you can go off and do whatever adventure you want to do, but we all come together and do something everyone's able to do. So, like, I'll have a character in each book that physically maybe can't do everything, but that person just they find something they can do. And then there's several explorations going on, and everyone's doing something, but all of it is family friendly activities the whole way through. They're solving a mystery in each book,
Okay.
and it's sometimes centered around the park itself, or it's something to do with the time travel secret. But so that gives you another storyline to follow through the book.
Very good. Now, I want to continue with the about the books, but I do want to circle back for one item as I was learning more about you and your background. Walking the Appalachian Trail, that has a very special meaning for you, especially as it applies to your brother who was afflicted with cerebral palsy. Do you care to share a little bit more about that and that impact?
Yeah. So my brother Aaron was we discovered it when he was just an infant that he had cerebral palsy, and which he's nonverbal to this day. He's in a wheelchair or relies on others for all of his basic needs. And I myself couldn't imagine living a life like that, being constrained. I mean, all the things that I've done, it made me realize that don't take your life for granted. If I can walk, I'm gonna walk far. I'm gonna walk where I want to walk. But then when I went to plan the Appalachian Trail adventure, I decided to share it with my brother. And he lives at a facility called Sunshine, which cares for many people with developmental disabilities. And I thought, well, why not hike as a fundraiser? And little did I know what would happen from that, but that thought evolved into something way bigger than me alone in the woods. It evolved into an annual walk, enroll, stroll, as you will. And it's gone on for um, 25 years now. And it's raised over $500,000 for people with developmental disabilities. And that all started with just sharing my dream with others and throwing that rock in the pond, and the ripple effect has just been amazing. That so to this day it still goes on.
Excellent. And I can imagine as you are out there or the others who are supporting the charity and also for their own reasons because in their family there's someone else to a similar disability. I can imagine the smiles on everybody's faces, whoever they are.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. When I finished my Appalachian Trail journey, uh, a few days later, I paid a visit to my brother at Sunshine, and I had this banner that my family surprised me with on top of Mount Katahdin, the final mountain a northbound hiker reaches to complete your journey. And I took that banner with me into his room, and he's nonverbal, but he had a smile from ear to ear, and to let me know that was the biggest smile I've ever seen on this guy. And it was his way of communicating that he understood every postcard that I had sent home to him. And his caregivers were thumbtacking my progress on a map on the wall. And that was when I had reached my Mount Katahdin when I was with my brother and knew that I had truly connected with him. And even though he's nonverbal, he was very understanding what was going on.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
As you continued on with the authoring journey within the Bubba Jones series, I'm curious, each book, is it standalone? Do you have to read them in order, or is it family size? Hey, we're going to go to Shenandoah next month, and then pick up your book, and then another vacation is another book, or is it good to work through it in order? What is your suggested route for the reader?
So all the books are independent. They stand alone. That was done on purpose. Now, if you like the adventures, you can read them out of order or go from 1 to 5. The first book's the inaugural book where it introduces the characters in great depth and detail. But I wanted you to be able to, if you weren't going to the Smokies and your family's going to go to the Yellowstone National Park, and you haven't been to Smoky Mountains, as a writer, I didn't want you to be hamstrung having to go read that other book about a park you're not going to experience first. So I front load all the pertinent information you need at the beginning of each book. And that was also done on top of thinking of the reader, but also the retailer, where the Yellowstone gift shop may not they may not carry books on other national parks. So I made it so the books could stand alone.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious what the the reception that the readers who are coming across these books, what are they saying about and it could be any one of the books. What are they saying about Jeff? We found the book in the bookstore or at the national park store. This helped us, or what's that review been like?
Yeah, I've had some great private emails and reviews for Backpacker Magazine, National Geographic Adventure for Kids, some really good media in awards. But I had one parent recently reached out. My child loves your books, and when's that Yellowstone book come out? I'd love to get a copy for his birthday. And like, wow, and and I was going to miss his birthday because the launch date was pushed back. So I didn't want this little guy to miss that opportunity. So I sent a unpublished early review copy to him for his birthday. And it's cool. You never know who your fans are. I just did a book signing and this uh, junior high age gentleman came up to me, and he's been reading my book since he was a reader in third grade. And that was just kind of neat. And so I do have a following out there, and it's funny too. I give walk and talks, historical presentations in some of the parks. For example, in Shenandoah National Park, I'm going to lead a walk back in time to meet the Civilian Conservation Corps when they have lunch with the President of the United States. And I have adults reading my books because they like the history in them. And so I have adults that buy them and read them to their grandkids or their children. And so I had no idea that would be something that would have occurred, but it has. So
Very good. Very good. So when you're not writing, preparing, and out there walking the trails, uh, how has this profession, this writing profession, writing the series, how has that affected, or what impact has that had on other aspects of your career, the professional work that you're doing?
it makes me see the world bigger and in more dimensions than I once did. It makes it. I think by interview, the book series has forced my hand to talk to people I normally wouldn't engage with, and t- I've gotten so many other perspectives that I had never even thought about before. So when I'm in a problem solving meeting, um, or it helps me to just better understand people, or situations, or how situations can be influenced by forces or things that you had no idea or had never thought of. I, the it's so funny because the outdoors is so simple, but then yet so profoundly complex, and we try to simulate but you can't. You know that as much as we use all this media, we still can't actually put you right there in the real forest. You still have to go out to get your forest bath. So, but I try to bring that forest bath into my workplace, where at the end of the work day, instead of stressing out over that unfinished thing in the to-do bin, look back at the pile of stuff you did in the done bin. And that equates to, like, on the Appalachian Trail, for example, when you climb up that mountain and you're exhausted and winded, not a breath, and just want to drop. Instead of looking up to where you've yet to go, I always, to this day, sit and look down to where I've come from. And I live in that moment, and I sit there and take a break and eat an energy bar and drink my water. And I try to take that mantra with me wherever I go.
Oh, I love that, and I see now the framework for your motivational speaking right there.
It's real. It's just real. Uh,
Fantastic. So you're up to the fifth book. You've got Yellowstone just published. What's next on your agenda? Where are you going to go next?
yeah, so we're this is always the fun part, and what my family will help me decide this, and because it is a family guided series, my um, watching my own kids' interactions with each park has just been cool. So we'll take a vote. I will whittle it down to like the top 5 or 6 choices. The All the books except one in the series are in the top 10 most visited national parks. And
Hmm.
there's a reason for that. Why are they the most visited? So like the Great Smoky Mountain National Park is the number 1 most visited. The primary reason not only is it awesome, unbelievable park that's huge and where I spent most of my time as a child, but it's also um closest to all these major cities, making it easier to commute from within a half day's drive. There are 63 national parks now, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And the last one added was, I believe, New River Gorge in West Virginia.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure yet. It could be Yosemite, the Rocky Mountains, Glacier. We're eh, there's several on the drawing board right now.
It's very good. And I have a whole new appreciation for the outdoors and the national parks, the state parks, even the national marine sanctuaries for that matter. Is and it's I love like here in Vegas. I mean, Death Valley National Park is right nearby. It's
Yeah,
an hour and a half away, which is
sure.
wonderful. And just and that's the beauty of this country. There's so many great places to visit and see. And if you were to kind of think back and look at everything that you've accomplished in doing this work and writing and the impact you're having on the families, is there a kind of this aha moment that you would want to share with our listeners about like, wow, I really get to do this? And again, I'm thinking back, you started early with the family, and now you're out there with your family crafting these adventures again and putting them to paper. But is there a moment where you kind of stopped, smelled the roses, so to speak, and said, wow, I get to do this?
It started on the Appalachian Trail, quite honestly, and I
Okay.
did, and it was the lessons learned were so powerful that when my family evolved, I got married and had my first child. I realized, wow, this isn't a moment where you stop exploring because of a child. This is a moment where you take child with you on your adventures, and so you can share all those powerful things that nature in the great outdoors can provide. And you have to modify how you go about it when they're really young. But I mean, I carried my daughter around in my back across Ireland. We walked Ireland. I My son was on the Appalachian Trail when he was just 6 weeks of age.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and that really just made me realize, well, this is kind of fun. Yeah, and for me, it made it fun. Just how can I make this happen? But from a real perspective, if the younger that you expose children to the outdoors in a fun way, not a way where they're like, I'll never do that again, but in a way like you're wiring it into their DNA. I mean, they're neurologically in encoding that, and they'll subconsciously do things. And it was because of stuff you did with them when they were really small before they even had memories of it. So just knowing that, really, but it started from my original Appalachian Trail adventure.
I love that. And I really appreciate the point of taking your kids out earlier and having them experience some of the things you're experiencing that because it is encoded early and it's hardwired and it's harder to do things when you're an adult because our different for different reasons we decide not to do something. And it's just wonderful when I hear stories about you, the my guests with their parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, and now you with your kids. That's wonderful. Is there any insight or something you'd like to share with our listeners? You've had a lot of adventures, and love to be able to leave them with a quote. Perhaps there's a book besides your book series, obviously. Anything else that you'd like to leave them with as kind of a final insight to go?
Well, I think that everybody, if you have a dream, you need to find a way to go about it. I think that if you put off a dream, you're banking on your health. And if you look at your own family history, you'll see that sometimes your health may not be there in the future. And instead of coming up with 10 reasons why you can't do something, that adventure you want to take, come up with how you could do it. So turn that around. So maybe you can't walk the Appalachian Trail. Your employer won't let you off work, but you could start living that dream. You could walk it in sections on your 2-week vacation. And that way, if you physically all of a sudden find out you can't walk anymore, you were living your dream, and it's more fulfilling than if you sat there on the couch wondering what if I did instead of I did. So that's what
I
I would
love
say.
that. I love that. And I want to thank you for a minute, Jeff, because as you were chatting about the books and Smoky Mountain, I remember I lived in Virginia many years ago, and I do believe I walked. It could have been a mile of in the Shenandoah National Park, and I also remember being up at Harper's Ferry, and I know the Appalachian Trail goes by that as well. It could have been a half mile. I don't know, but at least I can say I was on the Appalachian Trail. So,
Oh, very cool.
so
Yes.
thank you for that. Thank you for that little
Yes.
gift. If
Sure.
if our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work, where are the best places for them to go?
My website has a plethora of information, um, how to order the books. And on that website, there's even, if you go to the national park book series section, there's free printables. So you can print off these brain teasers for each book. And for the younger kids, there's even a color page that they can color of the characters. And so that's kind of fun. There's some interactive video or articles and my videos that I've done on there as well.
Fantastic. And I know you're on Facebook and Instagram, so we'll provide
Yes.
backlinks to that as well. Jeff, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, especially someone who has really been living a life of adventure, an accomplished author, fellow OWAA member, and always it's a pleasure to have my peers on the show and kind of hearing about their work and their passion. So, yeah, thank you for taking the time today to join us.
Thanks for having me on, Howard. Thank you.
All right. Listen, stay on the line. We're going to do a final chat and stay on the line, and we're going to do a quick close, and then you and I can have a final chat. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, folks, we've just been chatting with Jeff Alt. He's an author, speaker, adventurer, family hike and camping expert. And we have been chatting about his wonderful series, The Adventures of Bubba Jones. The 5th book has just recently been released, The Adventures of Bubba Jones, and it's time traveling through Yellowstone National Park and just the experience. And I love, Jeff sharing how he got started and got that bug, so to speak, of the enjoying the outdoors and where that has taken him in his career and the impact he's having on other families with kids who want to take their children out to explore. And I also appreciate the impact Jeff's own kids are having just on being able to take advantage of what their dad's passion is. And who knows even where that is going to lead. Now, you can check out Jeff's work on his website, jeffalt.com. We're going to provide links back to his social sites on Facebook and Instagram. And there's some other media links that we're going to share with you based on some of the reviews of Jeff's work. Do check out this series, The Adventures of Bubba Jones. Right now, there's 5 books in the series. And who knows? We'll see where the next books is going to be, what area of the country and what national park is going to be showcased. And it's going to be another great addition that you'll want to just look out for. As for us, you can find this episode on our website, theoutdooradventureseries.com. We are also on Facebook and on LinkedIn on our Outdoor Adventure Series pages. And of course, you can find us by searching for Outdoor Adventure Series on whatever podcast platform you listen to your podcast from. Okay? So folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, go out there, have a phenomenal day, and we will see you in a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.